Started the broadcast. So I think we're all ready to go.
That's my cue.
That's your cue.
This is the November 17th, 2020 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals, zoning. Present are Mr. Morrison, Ms. Grass, Ms. Riches, Ms. Vargas, and Mr. Bennett, and Mr. Robinson. Present from the planning staff are Mr. Batchelder, Ms. Ashby, and Ms. Stepp. These proceedings are being recorded, and we ask that those who speak identify themselves for the record. We'll conduct this meeting in usual fashion. We'll first receive information from city staff about the application and their recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, usually the Board of Zoning Appeals treats the matter as being uncontested and passes it as a matter of course. If, however, the city recommends against the application or there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We'll then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. The Board of Zoning Appeals, zoning, has the authority to do three things. First, to hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Second, to grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And third, to grant applications to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54-924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on the matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum is present and qualified to vote. However, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board members present and voting shall be required before a use variance may be granted. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Ms. Ashby, I understand we have item 1 on the agenda, 50 Queen, as Queen Street has been withdrawn.
Yes, sir.
That leaves us with one application. That is 257 St. Philip Street, Canterbury, Elliottboro. Request special exception under section 54-501 to allow construction of a single-family residence on a lot of insufficient size. Lot area 2171 square feet, 2,500 square feet required, zone general business. Mr. Batchelder.
This is a lot in the Canterbury, Elliottboro neighborhood. It lies just south of Line Street, and it is within a commercial zoning district. So the applicant submitted their application requesting to build a single family residence on this lot and went through the the requirements from the zoning ordinance in making their application. This is a zoning map, and I'll come back to those requirements at the end of the presentation, but this is a zoning map showing that this property has a general business zoning classification, which is indicated with this red coloring. And you can see that it extends along both sides of St. Philip Street, and it extends down Line Street to the west of St. Philip Street for several properties before the residential zoning that's prevalent in that neighborhood picks up. So this, despite being off King Street, is still zoned general business, the same zoning that King Street has. And you can see also from this map that the size of this lot is comparable to some other lots in the immediate vicinity, specifically these lots on Line Street to the west. And I should point out that these lots have residential homes on them. So despite being smaller than the minimum lot size for a residence, the size of this lot is comparable to other properties in the immediate vicinity with residences. Again, another map. You can clearly see the rooftops of the neighboring residential properties. There are some commercial properties. There's a institutional property down here to the south. It's a former church. I believe it's a former church. I don't believe it's active anymore, but I could be wrong about that. And other residential properties to the north on St. Philip Street and across the street over here. This is a view of the property. So this view actually shows a corner vacant lot over here. I should, let me do this. There we go. So this is the corner lot that is vacant, not part of this application. And then this is the subject property right here. This is the applicant's submittal showing specifically where that property is located relative to the buildings to the south. And a survey of the property showing the lot size as being under 2,500 square feet. And these are the site plan showing the parking and showing that the building footprint satisfies the setback requirements. Provides a 3-foot setback on the north side, a minimum 9-foot setback on the south side, meets the 3-foot rear setback back here, and there is no front setback requirement. So the building does not require a variance for setbacks, and it provides the 2 off-street parking spaces that are required. Floor plans indicate a house of approximately 1,900 square feet with 3 bedrooms. I'm sorry, 4 bedrooms. And elevations. This will be reviewed by the BAR. This is within the area that they have design review authority over. So we'll require their approval. So back to the request at hand. The zoning ordinance in section 54-501 says that where the owner of a lot at the time of the adoption of this chapter does not own sufficient land to enable him to meet the minimum lot size requirements of the chapter, the Board of Zoning Appeals may, upon approval of a site plan deemed not in conflict with the intent and purposes of this ordinance, authorize any use permitted in the district. And we feel that this house, because it, number one, this is a general business zone property, it could have a commercial use on it. But they're building a residential structure on it, which could be used as a commercial short-term rental. But it is a residential structure per se. And it could be used as a residential structure. We don't know what the future holds, but the building that they're proposing meets the setback requirements, meets the lot size, lot occupancy limitations, the height limitations, and provides the required 2 off-street parking spaces. So we feel that they do meet the site plan requirements for this use on this property, and feel that the use is appropriate for this size lot, given that we have other lots in the immediate vicinity which are similar in size. So we recommend approval of this request. And I neglected to put up my findings, but here they are, just listing what I've already stated. And so we are recommending approval of this property. And I'm not sure if, I think I saw that Marion Hawkins had signed up to speak. And Penny, please help me out there. Should I unmute anybody?
Mr. Hawkins was the only person that I saw, other than, of course, the applicant who's probably joined the meeting. There was no one else.
And did we have any letters of support?
We had a verbal of support from the applicant regarding the neighborhood association, but we didn't get anything in writing.
How about if,
Is there any opposition, Mr. Batchelder?
well, how about if I unmute Marion Hawkins and see if what his position is, and then we'll proceed from there, because Mr. Hawkins is an active representative of the neighborhood association. So let me unmute him.
Hey, Lee.
Marion, you should be able to speak.
Okay.
Are you going to speak in support or opposition?
Concern, I guess. I guess I want to convey.
Can I ask you to hold off for just a second? Let us go ahead and let the applicant speak.
Sure.
Okay. And the applicant, I believe, is that Ashley Jennings?
Yes, it is.
And Ashley, I've promoted you
Thank you.
to a panelist. And was there anybody else from your side that wanted to address the board as well?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and swear you in. And do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And if you want to go ahead and present your application.
Thanks, Lee. I don't know that I need to add a whole lot more to what you've already presented. Only just to say that we feel like this is a reasonable request. It's a relatively small footprint. It's a small lot, and my client would just like to build a single family residence on this lot. I think if there were any other zoning variances or things that needed to be considered, it might be worth a second look, but I feel like we're meeting all of the other zoning requirements. And And once again, I believe it's a reasonable request.
Are there any questions from the board from Ms. Jennings? Thank you, Ms. Jennings.
Thank you.
Mr. Batchelder?
Marion, let me go ahead and swear you in. And I guess if you want to call on the applicant at this point, I can swear you in.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you'd like to go ahead and address the board.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, we do applaud the applicant for investing in the neighborhood and taking a vacant lot and developing it. We're always encouraged by so many people wanting to be part of our neighborhood, and we welcome this project. I just had a few neighbors that have raised concerns about the lot being a little bit cramped and with and addressing the adjacent property. I know it does meet all the setbacks as well as all the requirements. So there was just a voice of concern about as they further develop the project, just the encroachment on other properties. I know there's another project going next door, which I think Ms. Jennings is working on as well. But I just did have a few concerns raised by adjacent neighbors. But I think some people were questioning, whether the parking could be a little bit wider. 9 feet seemed to be a little bit tight, as opposed to, closer to 11 or 12. And then it seemed like the pool was very, a lot of the footprint was based around the pool as opposed to, greater use of the first floor. So, but with that though, that's just our feedback from the neighborhood.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Hawkins? Mr. Batchelder, anyone else wish to speak?
Penny, was there anybody else who had signed up to speak?
No, Mr. Batchelder, no one else signed up to speak. Just Mr. Hawkins.
Okay. And when we go back to the rebuttal, I'm going to promote the owner of the property, who I also see is on in this webinar. I will promote him as well, along with Ashley, who's still a panelist.
Ms. Jennings, do you wish to offer a rebuttal?
Sure, I'll offer one. I'll let Hunter speak as well. I think that the only thing I would respond to is we did get some comments back from the neighborhood association initially with the design, with some of those same concerns about the way that the building addressed the properties to the rear. We've pushed the building back from the rear property line and simplified the footprint in order to accommodate some of those comments. But once again, we believe this is a reasonable request.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments, questions, or motions from the board?
Move approval.
Mr. Morrison moves for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was
Second,
that?
it's Hesa. Second.
Who was that?
Hesa, Vargas.
Hayes. Okay, thank you, Hayes. So we have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison,
Aye.
Ms. Grass,
Aye.
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Vargas,
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved, as is the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that concludes the meeting.
Excellent meeting, Mr. Robinson.
Well, I was after Mr. Crochet, our prior chairman's record for the quickest meeting ever. I'm close. I'm not sure if I made it. But it's close.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank